when keeping it real goes bad. Sometimes you need to mind your own business, and sometimes you don't need to make things about yourself. We're going to get into it. Let's get it! Welcome. First of all, welcome. This is Unsolicited Perspectives. I'm your host, Bruce Anthony, here to lead the conversation in important events and topics that are shaping today's society. Join the conversation and follow us wherever you get your audio podcasts. Subscribe to our YouTube channel for our video podcasts and YouTube exclusive content. Rate, review, like, comment, share. Share with your friends, share with your family, hell, even share with your enemies. On today's episode, I'm being dilly down a little bit, and then I'm going to be talking about this military parade, and then I'm going to do am I overreacting when somebody is dating somebody super religious? But that's enough of the intro. Let's get to the show. I was hanging out with a good friend of mine yesterday, and she listens to the show. And as we were hanging out yesterday, I was having trouble saying a word. I, for the life of me, cannot remember the word I was having trouble saying, but I routinely have trouble saying words that have multiple syllables, except for supercalifragilistic. Yep, I can't even say that word right now. My speech impediment is getting worse as I get older. And she was like, yeah, I've been noticing that you stumble over your words, during the podcast. And I was like, well, first of all, thank you for listening to the podcast. I really appreciate that. You're a real one. And two, yes, that's authentically me. Like I always talk about being authentically yourself. And authentically me is my speech impediment. I have a stutter. The stutter is not what you guys think it is. I had to explain it to my friend yesterday. It's not like, well, sometimes I can't get words out, but it's a repeating of things. Like you'll say, I'll say, yeah, I'm going to go eat some cake. Like that's a form of stuttering. And then I also have a lisp. I got a big, thick ass tongue. Okay. And I have a lisp that I hide really well, except for when I've been drinking and then it comes out. And this is who I am. I'm never going to lie about who I am. I started this podcast for one to introduce people to me. Not that I have that type of ego, but just me, and try and introduce things that people that might not know about or don't know how to learn about stuff. Just introduce that to an audience that might be receptive to it. And you guys have been receptive to it. And I'm eternally grateful for that. But the lesson that I always say, and the people that I have come on the show when I do interviews and me and my sister talk, is like being authentically yourself. And authentically, I be messing up on words. Okay. Like I speak well as far as, having the ability to stand up and give speeches. Like, yes, I'm talking into a camera right now, talking into a microphone. There's nobody else in here but me, but I'm talking to thousands of people out there. I can do it when those thousands of eyeballs are on me. I've never really had stage fright. However, I'm going to mess up on words, and it wouldn't be authentic if I edited out all the mistakes because that's not who I am. I'm not this perfect person. I'm perfectly imperfect. And I just want you guys to, I don't know, be perfectly imperfect in yourselves and not be embarrassed of your imperfections. So that's the reason why I leave all my flub ups on the episodes. This is the reason why I lean into it when my sister starts joking on me. I am not somebody who takes himself that seriously. I love being joked on. So, especially if it's funny. If it's not funny, like step your game up. But especially if it's funny, come on with it. Like I'm not going to shy away from that. And I wish people would stop taking themselves so seriously and lighten up as well. So, yes, I'm going to leave the ahs and ahs in. I don't do a lot of ahs and ahs, but I'm going to leave them in for the most part. And whenever I flub up, yeah, I'm going to leave it in because that's who I am. And I will never lie to you guys. I'm going to always be authentically me, mess ups and all. that's not really what I wanted to talk about today. Um, there's a lot of things that I'm going to get to today, and this is going to be a shorter episode because me and my sister filmed an extremely long episode last episode. So when I say short, like 45 minutes, 50 minutes without the intros and everything. But something came across my timeline, and y'all know how much I love talking about stuff that come across my timeline. And there was this woman that was in a CVS or Rite Aid, one of those type of drugstores, and their child, I don't know, 4, 5, maybe 6 years old, is just going nuts. Now, I'm not talking about a temper tantrum. Like those things happen when little kids have temper tantrums in the store. I don't look at the parents and be like, yo, you need to get your kid. Kids are going to have temper tantrums because they have all these emotions that that they don't know how to explain. It's just like in that movie Inside Out. Like they have a multitude of emotions that they don't know how to express, so it comes out in crying. I would be extremely agitated if I was trying to express myself. I couldn't get it out. I might throw a temper tantrum as well. I don't ever get upset at parents when kids do that. That's not what I'm talking about in this case. In this scenario, this little badass kid, and I'm going to say that the kid was bad because it was. This little badass kid was taking stuff out of the shelves, throwing it all around the store, being loud, being disruptive, and the mama wasn't doing too much. And oh, before you ask me, yes, the mama was black. I know a lot of people want to say, well, what was the mama? Implying that black kids won't act up, black kids act up as well. Every kid will act up. And every parent, I understand it nowadays, has difficult time disciplining kids because there's a lot of things you can and cannot do that in my generation, the millennial, older millennial, or younger Gen X, whatever the hell I am, generation had. We got our asses whooped often, thoroughly, often and thoroughly. So we didn't really show out in public like that. But for these new parents, and the parent looked like it was she was around my age, maybe even older. It might have been a grandma, but she said it was her child. What can the mother really do? And so the mother was banned. The store manager came up to her and was like, "Hey, look, you can't get any of this stuff. You gotta leave. You gotta leave because your child is unruly and you're not doing anything to stop it. And you've already been banned before. I don't know why you up in here. Like, you need to leave. This is disruptive." And she's like, "I can't get my stuff." He's like, "No, you gotta go. You can't control him." And the woman was like, "What am I supposed to do? If I lay a hand on him, I'm going to jail." And this little kid said something to the effect to the store manager, "Hey, shut the F up." And I'm not, he said the F word. And it was clear, like this child had said it before, frequently, with no speech impediment. It was clear. And the store manager kind of looked at the mom because this is little kid completely disrespecting an adult. And that's something that we were always taught to not do. Yes, sir. No, sir. Uh, yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. Thank you. Please. Like common courtesy, right? Common courtesy. Respect. Give respect for people. And not this old idea where you got to respect your elders. I believe that you do until they become disrespectful, but just respect people in general, no matter what age you are. This little kid was bad. And, people were in the comments saying, I don't know if she should have been kicked out of the store, blase, blase. And I'm like, no, you gotta go. Look, I don't have any kids, but I've been somebody's child. Me and my sister always say that. I don't have any kids, but I've been somebody's child. And I am a godfather. So I know that's not quite the same thing, but you know. And I think parents, this is gonna be controversial. This is gonna be controversial, but this is something I've been thinking a lot about. It's something that I've been sitting in thought, thinking a lot about. And it's not only just from this instance, it's from the instance of I saw a Vice article of this guy got pulled over by the cops because he had "I eat ASS" on his car windshield or his car back windshield, and the cop pulled him over, and the cop said, "If my 6-year-old kid saw that and asked me questions, I'd be furious that I had to answer the question." And the guy sued the police department for getting arrested, First Amendment, and I think it's still pending, but I think he's gonna win that case. And my answer to all of that, to every time parents said, I don't feel like my kids should be forced to see that. You hear that with transgender, with the attacks on transgender and drag queens and things. I don't feel like my kid should be forced to see that. And my response to all of that is, I didn't tell you to have a kid. That's your responsibility. I didn't have any say in it. I didn't have any say whether you decided to have a kid or not. You decided that you wanted to have a kid, and God bless you. I love kids. Bringing them into this world is a beautiful thing. I love children. I don't want this to come off as some situation where I'm bashing children, because I'm not. I love children, but you decided to have those kids. It is your responsibility to raise them. You're not going to infringe on me and my space because you decided to do something. Just as I wouldn't expect you to be forced to do situations because of decisions that I made. You made a decision to have children. It is your responsibility to raise children. Shielding them from the real world does absolutely nothing. Of course, there are times with conversations that you don't want to have with kids at a certain age, but we as adults need to stop discrediting children like they can't understand things. The more and more I step on the outside and I watch all my friends' kids, and I watch my little nieces and nephews growing up, kids are so observant. They pick up, they watch, they're learning. There's a reason why it's easier to teach a child a foreign language than it is an adult, right? Like they absorb things at such a fast rate. They can understand a lot better than what we give them credit for. You don't have to talk, you don't have to do that little kid talk with kids. You could actually have a conversation with a kid. It's not an intellectual conversation that you would have with a scholar. It might be a conversation that's on the intellectual level as an adult, because there's a lot of adults out here that are stupid. The point I'm trying to make is, stop acting like your kids can't understand complex situations. Kids have way more empathy and emotional intelligence of and acceptance than adults have, because their thought processes haven't been jaded. Explain it to your kid when it's outside in the world, if they can understand it, if they can't. Maybe you say, we'll table this conversation later when you're a little bit older to understand. But I am not going to sacrifice my life because you decided to do something. And that something was to have a kid. I know it's a whole community to raise a kid, and I'm all for that. But you're not going to infringe on me because of something that you did. And so this woman that was in here with this badass kid in the store should have been kicked out. I'm sorry. Like, I'm trying to get some some products. You know what I'm saying? I'm just running to the drugstore real fast. I got to get something real fast. And I don't need to be coming in here if you can't control your kid. That also goes for planes. A lot of these parents out here is like, just let the kid express himself. I'm all for letting kids express themselves, but not at the inconvenience of everybody else. Like, you wouldn't do that as an adult. You wouldn't do something and be inconvenient to everybody else. So why would you allow a kid to do it in inappropriate situations, like a plane where you're trapped and you can't go anywhere, or a restaurant where I'm trying to enjoy myself and your little kid is throwing fries all over the place, making noises? I'm not talking about little kid stuff. I'm talking about when they're being disruptive, like extremely disruptive. Little kids being little kids, I'm all for that. I'm talking about when they're being disruptive. Pay attention to what I'm saying here. So, yes, this woman should be barred, should be banned. And I don't know what the answer is disciplining kids. First of all, you let it get to this point where this little kid will say, shut the F up to an adult in such clarity, like this kid says it once or twice a day. There's a problem with your parenting. There are multiple ways to discipline kids without beating them. You ain't got to beat kids. And what I mean by beating kids, I don't mean, really beating kids. I mean like giving them a whooping and stuff, which is not beating them. Beating them is something completely different. You know, Penny from Good Times was beat. That was beaten. The Jacksons were beaten. Arnold got a spanking one time. I'm talking about Arnold from Different Strokes. And if I'm aging myself, okay, I'm old. Learn pop culture references. But yes, these parents out here, you got to understand it's not our responsibility to raise your kids. It's yours. It's your responsibility. You chose it. I didn't have a choice. And your decision. You chose it. It's not my responsibility. Handle your business. I try the best I can to make sure that I don't force kids to have to grow up early by my existence. But I'm not going to minimize my existence to help you raise your kid. Your responsibility. But I'm not going to end off that because I love the kids. Y'all know I do love the kids. And I saw this heartwarming story this is how I'm going to end the segment because I thought this story was really, really beautiful and it deals with kids. So there was a kid that had an old bicycle. The bicycle had no brakes, which is dangerous in and of itself. But we all been there and been kids that, did stuff that was wild, mad, crazy. So the bike had no brakes and he hit a car and dented the car. The owner saw the dent. I mean, justifiably so. The owner was upset, but not so upset that he didn't do this. A few days later, he presented that very kid with a new bike. Now, that owner could have done so many different things, but that owner said, this kid is out here. And yeah, he dented my car. And yeah, I'm not happy about that. But it could have been so much worse. This kid could have been riding his bicycle in the street, unable to stop, ran into something, ran off the road, got hit by a car. Instead of being so upset that his car was dented, he looked at the bigger picture and said, let me get this kid a new bike. These gestures give me so much hope for humanity because let me tell you something. What people really love to do is complain more than they love to praise. So it sounds and it feels so loud. And it feels like everybody is just a straight jerk. But there are people out there that do have big hearts and kind souls and will do these type of sweet things for people. And you know what? That kid wasn't being unruly. That kid wasn't being disruptive. The kid was just riding a bike. Maybe his parents didn't have the means to get him a bike with brakes. Maybe the parents didn't even realize the kid had a bike with no brakes because that's a separate issue that parenting, okay? Parenting. But yeah, man, look, not all the time do you have to come down on kids. And not all the time do you have to respond to things negatively. This was a good gesture and it warmed my heart to see it. And I love to see humanity still exists, kind hearts still exist. But one more story before I get out of this first segment. I said I wasn't going to do a full show, but I had to address this. So there are protests that are going in LA. I cannot stress enough, protests. There are always some people that are going to wild out during the protests and cause a ruckus and see opportunities to loot, rob, steal. Always going to be the case in any type of situation. When you're celebrating championship victories, people are out there celebrating the championship victory and then things get destroyed and then things get stolen. Well, in LA, there was a streamer that was recording a bunch of people looting a jewelry store, right? So he's live streaming these people looting a jewelry store in LA. They turn around and say, hey man, what you doing? And jumped him. They jumped him. They beat him down. Now, why is that funny to me? Mind your own business. There's nothing wrong with live streaming and live recording, but don't be no snitch. They out here looting. I'm not condoning that at all. Okay, first of all, not condoning that at all. But what I'm not going to do is live record people committing criminal acts because I don't want no smoke. It is clear. These people are out here, don't care about life. Now, that's an exaggeration, but it is clear that they are out here willing to risk it to loot this jewelry store. You think they're not going to whoop your ass because you want to live stream it? Dummy, when keeping it real goes wrong, you need to mind your own business and let them people do what they gonna do and just keep on walking. You can live stream something else. You can just be like, hey man, it's wild out here. You don't have to show the particulars. That beat down, that was on you. Have you ever had a situation where there was an ally that you had to whatever cause or belief that you believed in, but you didn't want this person to be your ally because they naturally were the antithesis of everything that you stand for? Like basically, you had an ally that you didn't want. It was like, "Man, I don't feel good if that's what that person, if that person is agreeing with me." I'm sure there are a lot of people out there, whether it's a coworker, family member, or whatnot, that somebody has agreed with you on a certain situation, and you're just like, no, I don't want you agreeing with me. That's the case right now with President Donald Trump. What do I mean by that? So today I'm filming as we speak. I am right outside Washington, D.C. This will be airing after the parade has already happened, but I'm filming it before the parade has started. And so I don't know what's going to happen out there. I know they have walled up DC. I know a lot of people that live here either got the hell out of town or are staying inside today. I was out on the streets earlier. There are people out. I don't know what the turnout is going to be. There's supposed to be a thunderstorm and flash flood warnings that's going on for tonight. And I hope it does rain. But I have to say, I support the military. I have always supported the military. Hey, yo, I'm from the streets. I believe in tooling up. I believe in having a strong force is always good to protect yourself. I have never, ever been against the military. And more importantly, I support veterans. I support the troops. Now, when you get into people saying I support the military, what they more than likely mean is they support the troops and stuff as long as it doesn't affect them because they're not really out here fighting for VA benefits like that. They will actively try to cut VA benefits, but say they still support the military. You know how I feel about hypocrisy? I'm not going to get into that. But I support the military, always have supported the military. So the Army is turning 250 years old. There should absolutely be a parade for the Army. There should absolutely be a celebration for the Army. I am all for constant celebration for our armed forces. They do the things that I'm unwilling to do. I will never talk badly, even when these soldiers and veterans don't align with me politically. Look, they fought for the freedom to believe and say, to a certain extent, whatever they want. And I look, I wouldn't be a soldier personally. Will I fight if I have to? Yeah, but I'm not just going to volunteer. That's not me. So I have so much respect for everybody that has entered the military. A lot of my family members have been in the military, Navy, Army, all of that. Okay. But Donald Trump, ugh, right? Like that's just how I feel. Like, ugh. Like he wants to throw a parade and he's saying it's to celebrate the Army turning 250. It just so happens that he's also turning 79 on that day. So is the parade really for the Army or is it really for him? And he's using that under the guise of, well, no, we're celebrating the troops and we're celebrating the Army. Because this is a man that's, talked really poorly about soldiers and veterans. He has. So I don't know how much respect he really has for the military. He has respect for force and power. He has respect for those things. Or is it respect or admiration or it could be all of those things. It could be all those things. All of those things can be true. But but we all know this is not a celebration of the Army turning 250. It's a celebration of Donald Trump turning 79. And I've seen clips of them practicing for the parade, or I guess it would be a military parade, and it looks very North Korean, communist type of Nazi type of parades, the way they are marching and things of that nature. And the whole premise, it doesn't seem like a parade. It seems like a military parade. And yes, the army is the military, but it doesn't look like it's a celebration. It looks like it's a show of force. And this is what I mean. Like, obviously, it is something that we should be celebrating. The army is turning 250 years old, and it's also Flag Day. I mean, but to me, the special thing, it's the army's turning 250 years old. I would love to celebrate that. There are so many soldiers out there that when I was out early in the street, and I want to say thank you, and I do want to thank them, but also I'm just like, are you here because you want to be here? You're here because you have to be here. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you want to celebrate them, but the celebration is tainted by having it on his birthday. And it just so coincides, but he didn't do this any other time when he was president, right? And granted, you only turn 250 once. Okay, I get it. This is a huge celebration. It's just, uh, I just it makes me sick to my stomach that it falls on his birthday and he's doing this big show of force. All the while, he's sending Marines to the LA, and you've got the governor of Missouri that's initiated the National Guard because they say that they're going to have protests in Missouri, right? And Missouri the governor is a Republican governor, right? And uh, there's a report that the Marines arrested somebody in LA, and I'm just like, this is a slippery slope, using the military for domestic issues. That's not really what that's not what the military is supposed to be used for. And typically throughout history, when the military is used for domestic issues, to the authoritative government. Now, people are going to say, there's so many dictators that were communists and socialists. Yeah, I can show you a lot of dictators too that were fascists. While there was Joseph Stalin, who was originally aligned with Adolf Hitler, Stalin being a communist, they were also aligned with Mussolini in Italy, who was a fascist. Please, please, ladies and gentlemen, open up a book and realize that fascism and socialism and communism are opposites. I used to love it when they used to say Barack Obama is a fascist, socialist, communist. Can't be that. You can't be that. This isn't a situation where both things can be true. Those can't be. So we're obviously not, we would like to be a socialist country. And in a lot of ways we are. We have programs that are socialists. But this show of military force is turning us into a fascist country. And that's not who we are. And I see too many people giving into it. Elon talked tough a couple of weeks ago. I talked about the breakup. He was talking tough a couple of weeks ago and back down. People back down to perceived power. If it wasn't for the Jedi, the Emperor would have maintained. The Death Star would have been built, and there would have been unchecked power. Palpatine would have had unlimited power. You had to have rebels to check power. So there's going to be some protests out there today for this parade. And they're not protesting, or they might be, but I believe that the protesters are not protesting the military. They're protesting Donald Trump and his show of force for the military and his misuse of the military. And how much this costs. There are people here in DC who have been losing their jobs because of Doge and the cuts that this administration is doing. Meanwhile, they're spending tens of hundreds, tens or hundreds of millions of dollars on this parade, which once again, I'm conflicted in because I believe the army should be celebrated. But because it's him, I naturally have to be against it. But then that puts me in a position to be against supporting the army celebrating 250 years. You see what I said at the top? When you have an ally that you don't want, that's backing up something that you believe in, but you don't want it because you know, it's coming with some strings attached. I don't want that. And that's how I feel about this whole thing. They've locked down DC. I've got to go from my house in Northern Virginia. I'm 3 miles away from the Pentagon. I've got to go to my house to Maryland tomorrow. There is no way that I can drive. Roads are closed and cut off. Even though the parade will be over tonight, the city won't go back to normal for a few days. So roads are cut off. So I'm like, how am I supposed to get to Maryland? I've got to take the metro, but there's going to be delays. And I know there's going to be a bunch of the MAGA folks that's going to be out here, and I'm not trying to have it. Now, I've been getting some reports from people that live close to the hotels that normally would be housing people that would be coming out to celebrate MAGA and Trump. And they're saying that they're not really seeing it, that the airports haven't been like extremely busy. So I don't know what the turnout is going to be. But also, I kind of want the turnout to be good because once again, we're celebrating the army. That's what this is supposed to be about. So I don't want the army to feel disrespected. Those soldiers that are being forced to march, or maybe not forced, maybe they volunteer because once again, it's a celebration of an organization that they are a part of. That's a good organization. It's a defender of our freedoms. So we should be supporting it. It's just being run by the evil empire. So that's the conflict that I have. And to not participate in this because I'm staying inside the crib. I'm filming this show and then I'm going to have my Saturday fun day because Sunday fun day I'm spending with my father because of Father's Day. But I'm staying in the house. Me and my good friend that went out yesterday. She was like, "You want to go out Friday or Saturday?" I was like, "Man, let's go out Friday so we can stay inside the house on Saturday because I'm not trying to be out in these streets because I'm not trying to have no conflict. I already live in DC. Anytime I see the red hats and you see them from a lot of people that come out of town, right? And I live in an area that's kind of touristy, so we're always having those bus full of kids that wear MAGA hats, and I'm just like, you don't even I know I said earlier that kids can understand complex situations, but these kids don't even understand what they're doing when they're wearing that hat. They are listening to their parents, and I know because I did, right? Am I a Democrat because my parents were a Democrat? Probably. But also, as I got older and began to think for myself, I was like, yeah, this is just the party that I align with because they're the party of doing right by people and trying to help people. And that's all I ever tried to do in my entire life is do right by people, respect people, and help them when I can. So, yeah, I'm conflicted. I would love to go out there and see the parade of soldiers and veterans celebrating 250 years in the army. But I can't because the person running the celebration is the head of the evil empire. And this is the conflict of this crisis of conflict that a lot of people find themselves in. I'm sure there's a lot of soldiers in the army that of course want to be celebrated but aren't happy that he's directing the celebration. I, I'm I'm almost positive that that's the case. It's like your worst enemy throwing you a birthday party. Yeah, you want to celebrate your birthday, but you don't want them to throw the party for you. I'm gonna throw you a surprise party. Man, I hate you. I don't want you at my party. Stay away from my party. Or I don't get to have a party. I might not I might not want that party then. Then let me just not have a party if you're gonna be the one throwing that party. And that's a sad commentary that you wouldn't want a celebration of yourself because of the person throwing it. You don't want nothing to do with them. That's how I feel about this situation. I would love to go out there and celebrate. But what does it say if I'm going out there to celebrate this today? Is he going to think I'm a backer of him? That I'm celebrating him? Because I'm sure hell not. There's nothing about him that I would ever celebrate. So I can't support it. I can't be out there. But then that means that I can't support the army, the soldiers, or those veterans. Here's the thing. There's a constant conversation that's had with certain communities dealing with the Black community, saying that they're not patriotic. And I would say it's really hard to love something that has been so abusive to you, but yet we still do. We do love this country for the good. We do. There are so many of us that are service members, that are veterans, that have fought, died, lost limbs for this country. We want to drape ourselves in the flag. We just don't like a lot of times who's representing that flag. That's the real. And I know I don't speak for all the Black community, but I can guarantee you the majority of the Black community feels this very same way. It's like rooting for your rapist. You may not like that analogy, but that's what it is. Was that a tough pill to swallow? Was that tough for you to hear? Yeah, that's our reality. And that's what I'm faced with today. The fact that I want to celebrate the Army. Like I said, I have family members that have been in the Army. I have decorated family members from the Navy. I got a lot of family members that's been in the armed forces. I want to celebrate the Army turning 250 years old. That's dope. I would love to go out there and drape myself in the flag because I have family members who have bled, sweat for this country. And out of respect to them and respect for everybody else that has done that, I want to go show them that I appreciate them. But I can't do that. I can't do that because the evil empire has decided to do this celebration and it coinciding with the evil empire's birthday. So it comes off as a huge birthday celebration, and especially the way that it's being directed. It's being directed like a dictator would direct a military parade. Can't support that. Support the hell out of the troops. Support the hell out of the veterans. I can't support what's being done right now. All right, guys. For the last segment, I went to my favorite social media site. That's right, Reddit. And y'all know I love Reddit. Reddit, because people put their business out there on the street, and because I'm so messy, there is always a Reddit story that I can find to talk about. Because I'm like, how the hell are you in this situation? And I love going to it because people tell their business. And like I said, I'm messy. And I need to clarify something because somebody commented when I said I was messy, that implied that I'm messy personally. I'm not. I'm not toxic or messy anymore. I haven't been that for 10 to 15 years. Okay. I'm not toxic or messy personally. I'm messy in when people give me gossip, I love to hear it. Y'all are too. That's the reason why reality television blew up. Y'all are messy too. Y'all love gossip. This is the reason why gossip columns are always popular, gossip magazine, gossip TV shows. People love gossip. People love learning about other people's lives. Here's the thing. When I learn about other people's lives, I don't really judge them. Not really. Not judge them as I would look bad upon them. I might judge them and be like, man, that was stupid. But I'm not holding that against them because we all do stupid stuff. I, myself included, I've put myself in a lot of dumb situations that I knew were going to be dumb and I did it anyway. That's human nature, right? So I'm not judging from that standpoint. And I'm not personally messy. Like y'all don't really I have stories of things that happened to my life. I love to tell the stories, but by and large, I don't be having drama in my personal life. I just don't, because I don't really do anybody wrong and I won't tolerate anybody doing me wrong. So my personal life isn't messy. However, I am messy because I love hearing gossip. And when I came across this Reddit story, I was just like, ooh, this is another good one. And I wanted to share it on the show. So I'm going to read it to you and then I'm going to talk about it. Let's go. I'm a 30-year-old female. I started talking to this guy, a 33-year-old male from a dating site. We started talking yesterday, June 12th. We talked on the site for a little bit and then started texting. I thought he was pretty cool and our conversations were natural and comfortable. He then started being a little pushy about wanting to hurry up and get into a relationship, talked about kissing and sex. Obviously, red flags, but I told him we have to get to know each other first, and that topic is off limits until we get to that point. He backed off and things went back to normal ish, I guess, since it was literally been less than a day. Anyway, today we were just talking about random stuff, asking each other questions as one does. He then asked me if I'm religious. Totally an okay question, and I told him I wasn't. The text the text that I'm going to read in a little bit is how it went. So many people in my family and my friends say not to let that kind of stuff ruin relationships. After the last text, I told him to watch a religious deconstruction video so he could learn why I'm not religious. Now he's saying, well, maybe I'm not religious either, and let me make it up to you. Am I overreacting or should I just block this guy? So that's her initial intro of what's going on. And so now I'm going to read the text that they were going back and forth with. So this is the guy. I'm starting off with the guy, and then I'm going to follow up with what the girl said. So, woman said, "Excuse me. Do you go to church? I'll definitely. Oh, do you go to church? I'll definitely think about it and no, not religious. Well, could you go with me? That's something I'd really have to think about. Well, can I ask if you believe? I'm not religious. Well, can you think about becoming religious? I've been through religious stuff my entire life and no, I can't. Why? I like you and that's important to me. Oh, sorry, I'm not okay with becoming religious for someone. Well, can you just think about it? No, and I don't appreciate you trying to force me. Why are you being so difficult? I'm not, LOL. I'm allowed to not be religious just like you are allowed to be religious. I'll work on you. Okay. I guess I'd be happy if we could just go to church together on occasion. Hmm. I'm uncomfortable with you trying to make me religious and saying you still are going to try. I'm not sure if I can keep talking to you if that's how you're going to be. Well, I don't want to see you go to hell. Can you just hear me out? Whoa, dude, that's crazy to say to someone. That's not okay at all. I will absolutely not hear you out. You can either keep your beliefs to yourself or not talk to me. I'm very serious. She wants to know if she is overreacting in those texts. Once again, she says that her family says, you can't ruin relationships over stuff like this. Once again, this has all been in one day. This is the first day. So in the first day, he's brought up sex, kissing and sex. And in the same day, he's bringing up, well, will you go to church with me? Well, I don't want you to go to hell. And she's asking us if she's overreacting, if she should block the guy. Ma'am, I cannot stress this enough. I feel like this is a common thing that I talk about when it comes to dating and relationships. Energies need to match. I went out on a date with a woman probably about a year ago, and chemistry was there. Dope person to talk to, uh, attractive. Physical chemistry was there as well. I mean, we didn't that, but we kissed, and it was magnetic. There was a pull to each other, both intellectually and physically, right? There was a pull. I had to take a step back and say, okay, let me look at the situation. Do our energies match? And in a lot of ways, they did match. Like I said, intellectually and physically, energies absolutely matched. But when I stopped looking at it from a micro and started looking at it from a macro level, looking at it at the bigger picture, I realized that our vibes, our energy weren't aligned. And which vibes and energy was I talking? What am I talking about? So I absolutely believe that we could have gone on more dates, ended up dating, ended up in a relationship. And how long could that a relationship gone? Could have gone for a long time. Could have gone for a long time. I could have actually been in a long-term relationship with this woman. However, our views of what we see for the future don't align. This particular person very much looked at money as the be all end all goal. And I'm not knocking anybody who want to get their paper up. Who don't want to get their paper up? Everybody should want to get their paper up. Having your paper up is fun. Having your paper up alleviates some stresses in your life, right? That's what money does. When people say money can't buy you happiness, it can't buy you happiness. It can buy you a relief on certain stressors. That's not happiness, though. That's just relieving certain stressors. So the actual money doesn't give you happiness. It gives you relief, but relief is not happiness. Okay. I learned this a very, very long time ago. I used to, and I've just recently stopped. And when I say just recently stopped, like within the last 3 years, I just recently stopped doing impulse buys because I would say I would get fixated on certain things. Prime example, I recently, the beginning of this year, I was like, I want a new couch. My couch is perfectly fine right now, but I was fixated on I wanted a new couch. I wanted a new couch. I wanted a new couch. I had to stop myself and say, why would I spend the money on a new couch when I have a perfectly good couch? There's no justifiable reason for wanting to get a new couch. The reason why I want to get a new couch is because I think it would look nicer and it would make me happier. And it would look nice. It would make me happier for a short period of time because then there would be something else that I needed to do to make myself happy. We talked about the happiness level. Everybody has a default happiness level. No matter what happens in your life, good or bad, you will revert back to that default happiness level. So no matter what you give yourself or get yourself, you're going to go back to that default. And I realized, I said, I'm not going to get that couch. I would rather use that money to my trip for New Orleans or going out to see my cousin in Vegas that I've been talking about going to see, or going out to LA to visit some friends, right? There's other ways that I could use that money that would be more meaningful, that would genuinely give me happiness and long-term memories, right? I'm finally just at almost 45, finally getting to that point. Money isn't a big deal to me, not because I have a lot of it, but because I know it will relieve stress, right? Because, I'm not worried about bills. So money is definitely dope. And I do try to get my money up. That's not my focus though. My focus on is creating memories that I know those memories will make me happy temporarily. And then when I look back on them, can bring me continuous happiness, right? That's what I'm focused on. I'm focused on those moments. Money is not my driving force. Money was her driving force. My driving force is happiness, memories, moments. Hers was money. Not saying that she doesn't like having moments and memories, but they were just different. And at a certain point, those two diverging arrows were going to cross and it was going to be a conflict. And I'm not compromising on what my goal is as far as achieving happiness and moments. My goals will never be to focus on getting that money. So I knew in the long run that was going to be a point of contention. Okay. I said all of that to say this. If something as simple as that energy is not matching, what the hell do you think is going to be the case when one person is super religious and the other person isn't religious? Which, by the way, this young man, I could call him that because he's 33 years old, is not religious. Because if he was religious and he was so fixated on not going to hell and he was a man of God, he wouldn't be talking about kissing and sex on the first day of meeting this person on a dating site. He's one of those hypocritical Christians or hypocritical religious people. I don't know if he's a Christian. I just said religious. He's one of those hypocritical religious people. So there's conflict in that in and of itself. But when one person is religious and the other person is not, and one is trying to push their ideals onto the other, there's going to be conflict. You know, the one thing that has always had wars and battles and fights since the beginning of time? Religion. Religion. People in the same religion, what I mean in Christianity has so many different umbrellas, look down upon each other. I had somebody the other day tell me a story. They are a Southern Baptist and they were looking down upon Catholics because they said Catholics don't read the Bible. I said, where are you getting that from? I was like, where are you getting that from? Well, just back in the day, a lot of people couldn't read. I said, how does that apply to now where they're just told what to believe? I was like, you're told what to believe. Well, I read the Bible. Who says that you understand what you're reading? What sense does that make? This is a Christian talking about another Christian. And it's in every faith. In every faith, there are different denominations and they don't always get along. There is conflict. Even if you believe in the same God, there's conflict. If you are religious and the other person is not religious and one is trying to force the other to believe what they believe, yeah, now you need to move on. And on top of that, this is still just the first day. I can't stress that enough. They just matched June 12th. And right now, it is June 14th. Okay. They just matched June 12th, and you're already putting something in the am I overreacting Reddit? Yes. No, you're not overreacting. You should block this person. And I don't even know why you needed to get to this point. That's how desperate people are for dating nowadays. You don't want to be alone. Yeah, be alone until you find the right person that match with you. And for you hypocrites out there, stop being a hypocrite. Can you stop, please? Because this person is definitely a hypocrite. God, I just don't. I saw a meme and it said, I did not realize that the older I get, the more I was going to realize people are dumb. And yeah, it has really been an eye-opening experience the older I get to realize people are just dumb. They just dumb. Wow. No. So my advice to you, young lady, if you happen to be watching the show, is that you don't gotta block the person. I don't believe in blocking unless somebody is harassing you. But you could just say, this isn't going to work out for me. I wish you the best of luck, considering the fact that you were talking about sex, kissing, relationships, and religion all in the first day of y'all matching. That's just crazy. Yo, people have some crazy situations out there. I don't do it. When I said I'm not messy, I don't deal with stuff like that. I bounce. That's crazy. God. Woo. These stories, but I love it. Keep them coming. I hope that subreddit never goes down. Brings me so much joy to be that messy. But on that note, ladies and gentlemen, what am I going to leave you with? If you have a crisis of conscience, because You believe in something, but you don't like your allies. Don't change what you believe in. Believe in what you believe in. You just don't have to celebrate it with the people that are your allies that you don't want them to be. But don't change your beliefs. Be who you are, even when what you agree with and what you believe does align with the person that you hate. But on that note, I want to thank everybody for listening. I want to thank you for watching. And until next time, as always, I'll holla. Whew, that was a hell of a show. Thank you for rocking with us here on Unsolicited Perspectives with Bruce Anthony. Now, before you go, don't forget to follow, subscribe, like, comment, and share our podcast wherever you're listening or watching it to it. Pass it along to your friends. If you enjoy it, that means the people that you rock will enjoy it also. So share the wealth, share the knowledge, share the noise. And for all those people that say, well, I don't have a YouTube. If you have a Gmail account, you have a YouTube, subscribe to our YouTube channel where you can actually watch our video podcast and YouTube exclusive content. But the real party is on our Patreon page, After Hours Uncensored and Talking Straight-ish. After Hours Uncensored is another show with my sister. And once again, the key word there is uncensored. Those are exclusively on our Patreon page. Jump onto our website at unsolicitedperspective.com for all things us. That's where you can get all of our audio, video, our blogs, and even buy our merch. And if you really feel generous and want to help us out, you can donate on our donations page. Donations go strictly to improving our software and hardware so we can keep giving you guys good content that you can clearly listen to and that you can clearly see. So any donation would be appreciative. Most importantly, I want to say thank you, thank you, thank you for listening and watching and supporting us. And I'll catch you next time. Audi 5000. Peace.